All right, we left off when we were talking about the unit circle. All right, so we were just talking about how to solve for like sine of something on the unit circle. And these are called exact values, so we can find these exactly, like square root of 3 over 2 is an exact answer, not 0.866 like your calculator gives you, right? Okay, so we talked about the degree ones. So I said if I wanted to find sine of 30 degrees, I don't know if you guys remember, we did like 30 degrees, and we said it goes over a lot, up a little, so that was the square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. Okay, do you guys remember getting those values and everything? So if I talk about sine, it's the y value. Cosine is the x value. Okay, so that's how we got 1/2 for our first answer. All right, so now it's going to be a little bit harder because now we're going to do radians. So some of you guys aren't quite familiar with radians yet, which is fine. So this may seem like I'm doing this kind of fast, so let me know if you're having trouble. All right, so if I have sine of pi over 6, so think about where pi over 6 is. You guys know that pi is all the way over on the other side right there. So if you want pi over 6, think about dividing that region into 6 equal pieces. Pi over 6 ends up being a very small angle right there. It's the same as 30 degrees. Okay, so we said if I have pi over 6, I go over a little, up a lot, so that's square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. So the sine value is 1/2. If I ask cosine of pi over 6, it would be square root of 3 over 2. All right, the next one is cosine of 3 pi over 2. So 3 pi over 2, 3 over 2 is 1.5, so that's saying we have 1.5 pi. Okay, so think about your unit circle. 1 pi takes me all the way around to here. I need another 1/2 pi, so I'm going to go around to here. Okay, that is an angle, right? You open all the way up, all the way around. Okay, you end up getting the point 0, comma -1. So which is the cosine value? 0, right? It's the x value. So 0 is your answer. All right, pi over 4. Okay, pi over 4 is a fourth of pi. So pi was all the way around to this side. 1/2 of pi would be up here. So a fourth of the pi is right there. Okay, that's the one that has the exact same measurements. Okay, so it's not 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. That's the one that was square root of 2 over 2, comma square root of 2 over 2. So when I talk about cosine, it's the x value. So it's square root of 2 over 2. All right, sine of 3 pi over 2. Again, 3 pi over 2 is the one where you go to 1.5 pi. So you're down here at the bottom of your unit circle. That point is 0, -1. So sine of 3 pi over 2 is the y value, so it's -1. Okay, think about the last two. So you guys go ahead and try to sketch them, so see if you can get them. Just think about where they are. Okay, so 5 pi over 4, that's more than 1 pi, right? It's 1.25 pi. So you're going to go past pi, so here's where pi would be. And you're going to go 1/4 pi past, so that's going to be right here. All right, that point there is negative and negative, right? You go left and then down, so it's negative square root of 2 over 2, comma negative square root of 2 over 2. So when we talk about the cosine value, it should be negative square root of 2 over 2. Did you guys get it? And the next one is 5 pi over 3. Okay, that's also more than pi. It's almost 2 pi. Does it look like almost 2 pi? Okay, if I had a denominator of 3, what would 2 pi be? It'd be 6 pi over 3, right? Do you guys see what I'm saying? So 2 pi would be 6 pi over 3. Okay, so think about where 2 pi is. 2 pi would be going all the way around. Okay, so we're not going to go quite all the way around. We're going to be 1/3 pi away from it. So it's going to end up being like that. So this distance right here is pi over 3. So you're pi over 3 away from 2 pi. All right, now think about what this point is. The point, you go over a little tiny bit, right? You go right to a little tiny bit and then down a lot, right? You're creating that big angle. So this is 1/2, comma, negative square root of 3 over 2. And it's positive and negative because we go right and then down. So cosine is 1/2. Okay. All right, so let's talk about actually solving. Well, we'll talk about tangent first. So it says previously we learned that sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse and cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So what is tangent? Tangent, using SOHCAHTOA, is what? Opposite over adjacent. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. So it's missing that hypotenuse. Okay, here's what it ends up being. It's opposite over hypotenuse divided by adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, think about why that would be okay. So if I had opposite over hypotenuse and I was dividing by, right, adjacent over hypotenuse, that's the same as not dividing by. I'm going to write multiplying by its reciprocal. So hypotenuse over adjacent. Do you guys see how the hypotenuses would cancel? You get opposite over adjacent. Okay, so basically I just divided by hypotenuse on the top and the bottom. So opposite over hypotenuse we said was sine of theta. And adjacent over hypotenuse is cosine of theta. So that means tangent is equal to sine over cosine. So tangent of any angle is equal to the sine of the angle divided by the cosine of the angle. Okay, so think about your unit circle. The sine was which value for the points?
The second.
Yeah, the second one, the y value. And then the cosine was the x value. So what you're really doing is you're taking your y value and you're dividing by your x value. So if I asked you, let's say I said find the tangent of, I don't know, 30 degrees. So if I ask you to find the tangent of 30 degrees, we think about where 30 degrees is. So that's a little angle. So that means you go over a lot, up a little. So that's the square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. So go over the big number, up a little bit. So when I talk about sine over cosine, the sine value is 1/2. The cosine value is square root of 3 over 2. And you end up simplifying that. If I have 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2, it's 1/2 times the reciprocal. So 1/2 times 2 over square root of 3. The 2's would cancel. You'd get 1 over the square root of 3. Oh, this is a tricky one. We don't leave it like that. What do we need to do?
Remove the square root.
Yeah, get rid of the square root on the bottom. So we rationalize. So multiply by square root of 3 over 3. Or square root of 3 over square root of 3, I guess. So you get square root of 3 all divided by 3. That's what tangent of 30 degrees would be. So tangent's a little bit harder because you have to actually do the division. You can't just do it all in your head. All right, so number 3, it says use your unit circle to solve the following equations. Give every answer between 0 and 360. Notice how I said every answer? There could be more than one. So there could be 2 places where your sine is equal to 1/2. So let's think about that. Let's go back and look at that unit circle you guys drew. This one's kind of messy. So what if I asked you when is the sine of x equal to 1/2? That means the y value on your unit circle has to equal 1/2. Do you guys see there's a place here where it's equal to 1/2? But there's also a place over here. There's 2 places. Yeah, Kern? We're going to do degrees first, and then we'll do the pi ones. When you guys get to calculus, you're only going to be doing pi. Like you're going to find on the interval 0 to 2 pi always. But for now, we'll do degrees since you're more comfortable, I'm sure, with degrees. Okay. Okay, what about these ones down here? Does this have a sine value of 1/2? No. Sine value of negative 1/2, right? So the sign does matter. Okay, so let's go. So cosine of x equals square root of 3 over 2. Okay, so think about what that's saying. It's saying on your unit circle, the x value is square root of 3 over 2. Okay, so when is your x value that big value? Like you go over a lot. So there'd be two places. Do you guys see? Those have positive x values. That would be the same value. Okay, the first one's 30 degrees. So this is the top one. Okay, and the other one's almost to 360, but it's 30 degrees away from 360. So what's that going to be? 330. Does that make sense? So find the first one, and then you can usually figure out the second one from there. So 30 and 330 are your answers. So x equals 30 degrees, and x equals 330 degrees. All right, so the next one says sine of x is equal to square root of 2 over 2. Remember, the square root of 2 over 2s are like the pi over 4 divisions. Okay, so if I have square root of 2 over 2, it's saying when is your sine positive, so the y value is positive, square root of 2 over 2. So think about where those locations are. So do you guys see they'd be here and here? Okay. The first one's easy. That's the pi over 4. Oh, no, I won't do pi over 4. See, I'm used to doing it every day. Okay, so this is 45 degrees. Okay, the second one's a little bit harder. What should that be? It's past 90 degrees. 135. 135. So x is equal to 45 and 135. All right, this next one only has one answer. See if you can sketch it out and think about what the answer is. So sine is equal to 1. Yeah, Kern? What? 90 degrees, that's exactly right. Because it's that point up there, right? That's the point 0, 1, so the sine value is 1 there. That's the only place where you have a sine of 1. So it's 90 degrees. So x equals 90 degrees. All right, go ahead and try D and E. So try D and E. So sketch it out. Think about, there should be two places for each of them. All right, so sine of x equals negative 1/2. So now my y value is going to be negative. So I'm going to be below the x-axis, right? And I just want to drop down a little tiny bit, just negative 1/2. Oops, I feel like it's not calibrated here. There we go. Okay, so just like that. So you're a little bit past 180, and then you're almost to 360 for the other one. How many degrees am I past 180, do you guys think? 30 degrees. So this little measurement in here is 30 degrees. So that means that this is 180 plus 30, so it's 210 degrees. All right, now the other one is almost to 360, but it's 30 degrees away from 360. Do you guys see how we're getting 30 degrees? Because 30 degrees is what gave us sine at positive 1/2. All right, so this one is 330. So it's x equals 210 and 330. So I saw a couple of you guys have that answer, so it's good. All right, the next one is cosine of x equals negative square root of 2 over 2. So now it's saying your x value is negative, right? Cosine is your x value on your unit circle. So x values are negative to the left of the y-axis. Okay, so we're going to be right in between those two. Right in between those two, like that. Okay, so we're past 90 degrees. This is that one that we had a little bit ago, 135. It's 45 degrees past 90 degrees. Or 45 degrees away from 180, right? You could think of it that way. All right, and this one's 45 degrees past 180. So do 180 plus 45. You get 225. So your two answers are 135 and 225. Did anybody get both D and E? Just Gabby? Karen? Two of you? Okay. Okay, anybody else stuck that has anything that they're confused on?
Well, I didn't do it without actually looking at the user list. I have no idea how
Yeah,
you
did you guys see why it's nice that you memorize the unit circle? Yeah, if you memorize it, then you'll know these right away. So we got to know it.
Yeah.
We're going to have a quiz soon.
I see you doing it, but like each one I still have no idea how you're doing it.
And that's why I always make my calc students memorize it at the beginning of the year again, because they forget it, and then I'm like, okay, we do this every single day. You know, we solve for x in sine and cosine every day, so you need to know this. Well, almost every day. All right, so tangent of x equals 0. So tangent of x is sine over cosine, right? So you're saying your sine value divided by your cosine value equals 0. This is kind of tricky. So most things, I mean, you could have 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. Those are pairs. They go together. You could have square root of 2 and square root of 2. They go together. None of those, like when you divide them together, you're going to get 0. Right, so what are points that have 0? Yeah, so like the points on the ends. So you could have like 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, -1, -1, 0. I'm trying to remember all of them. Okay, so we need 0 to be the sine value. So think about that. So we want to know when sine is equal to 0. Oops, I'm writing it, but it's not writing. So sine of x equals 0. All right, so when is sine equal to 0? That's when the y value is equal to 0. So that means you don't go up at all. So those two places. Right, those 2 points are 1, 0 and -1, 0. The sine value is equal to 0. So what are the degree measures for those? 0, 180 degrees. And notice how I said give your answer between 0 and 360. I really should have done like a bracket on one of them. Usually there's like a bracket on a 0 and then a 360 is a parenthesis. So we just say 0 and 180. We wouldn't include the 360. But if both of those had been brackets, do you guys remember what that means? Like including those points. So if both were brackets, you would include 360 as well. So we'll just go ahead and write all three just in case. So 0, 360, and 180. All right, so when is tangent undefined then?
When the cosine value is 0.
Exactly. So when cosine of x equals 0, or cosine of theta, whatever you want to use. Okay, so that would happen when your x value is equal to 0 on your unit circle. So here and here. Oops. So that would happen at 90 degrees and 270 degrees. So both those places. Hi. And the last little bit, so it says use your unit circle to solve the following equations. Give every answer between 0 and 2 pi. So now it's harder. So now you have to use those radian measures that you guys aren't entirely comfortable with yet. So let's see if we can do it. So cosine of x equals square root of 2 over 2. So it's still the same kind of thing. If you guys need to think about degrees first, you could always convert from degrees to radians. So if you have square root of 2 over 2, that's saying your x value on a unit circle is square root of 2 over 2. It's a positive number. So it's those two places. Right, x is square root of 2 over 2 in those places. All right, we know it's 45 degrees, but what is that in terms of radians? Pi over 4, right? Now this other one is pi over 4 away from 2 pi. So if you had 2 pi and you subtract out pi over 4, that's 8 pi over 4 minus pi over 4. So what's that going to be? 7 pi over 4, right? So those are the two values. So you can just circle them if you want. Okay, it's hard with the pi's. I know you guys aren't used to them yet. All right, so sine of x equals negative square root of 2 over 2. So now it's saying the y value is negative square root of 2 over 2. So it's negative So y values are negative below the x-axis. So that's going to be down in these two locations. All right, so it's pi over 4 past pi. So think about that. If I started with pi and I added pi over 4, what's that going to be? 4 pi over 4 plus pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, right? And this other one is pi over 4 away from 2 pi. 7 pi over 4, good. So those are your two values. Okay, you guys getting used to it? Do you guys want to try some on your own? So at least try C, D, and E. F is a little tricky, so we can do F together, but try C, D, and E at least. All right, so we had sine of x equals -1. So we said that there's only a couple values where your sine is equal to 1 or -1. Okay, so sine is your y value. Y equals -1 down here at the bottom. That's the only place where you have a y value equal to -1 because it's the unit circle, the radius is 1. Okay, that is 3 pi over 2. So x equals 3 pi over 2 on C. All right, sine of x equals -square root of 3 over 2. So think of your unit circle. It's saying your y value is a negative number, so it's going to be below the x-axis. It's -square root of 3 over 2. Square root of 3 over 2 is pretty big. Okay, so it's going to be down a lot. The number that goes with square root of 3 over 2 is always 1/2, right? So it's saying you go over 1/2 down a lot. Okay, so you can kind of see what the angle looks like there. All right, if you think about it, if it was equal to positive square root of 3 over 2, that was the 1/3, right? This measurement right here is pi over 3. All right, so we're going to use that same measurement and we're going to go down pi over 3. Okay. It's all symmetric. So if I go down pi over 3 from pi, that means I start with pi and I add pi over 3. So if I have pi plus pi over 3, I want to get common denominators, so I think of pi as being 3 pi over 3. I multiply by 3 on the top and the bottom. Right, 3 pi over 3 is still pi, plus pi over 3. So you get 4 pi over 3. So this point right here is 4 pi over 3. So that's that radian measure. So if you go all the way from 0 to 4 pi over 3. All right, now this other one, this is still pi over 3, this distance, that radian measure, but it's away from 2 pi, right? It's saying you're pi over 3 away from being at 2 pi. So now you're going to say, okay, well, if I had 2 pi and I subtracted out pi over 3, well, 2 pi is 6 pi divided by 3 minus pi over 3. So you get 5 pi over 3. So that is 5 pi over 3. Okay, that's always the easiest way to do it. Some people will start with the 3 over 2 pi and add a 1/6 to it, which is kind of crazy. Or, yeah, a 1/6. So don't do that. I always think of what it's almost to, pi or 2 pi. Yes?
When we're testing on this, are you going to give us like a blank unit?
Yeah, what you guys are going to have is you're going to have kind of 2 quizzes that make one. So one of them you're not going to be able to use your calculator on at all, and you're not going to be able to look at your notes at all, and that's just your unit circle quiz. So your unit circle quiz will look exactly like a blank one of these. Okay, and that's what you guys have as practice on your homework. It looks exactly like that homework practice page. Okay, so you have to fill in all the degree measures, all the radian measures, all of the x and y values. Okay, and the other part of your quiz is going to be just on all of the additional topics. And you're going to have questions like this on there. I mean, you'll have a few questions like that, but it's not going to be a huge thing. I'm going to ask maybe 2 or 3 questions from each section. So, all right, so cosine of x equals 1/2. So it's saying your x value is equal to positive 1/2. So x values are positive on the right side of your unit circle. If I want positive 1/2, that means I'm going over just a little bitty bit. So it's going to be here and here. Okay, this is pi over 3. So going from the axis all the way up to that is pi over 3. So that's one of them. That gets the first point. Okay, now this other point is located, that same radian measure, away from 2 pi. Does this make sense? So you're basically going to take 2 pi and you're going to subtract out pi over 3. So if I had 2 pi and I subtract out pi over 3, well, we just did that. We said it's 5 pi over 3. So we get 5 pi over 3. And the last one, tangent of x equals square root of 3 over 3. Okay, these ones are tricky. I always think about what has a square root of 3 in it. So you have a square root of 3 in it when you have square root of 3 over 2, right? So you're either going to have square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, or it's going to be square root of 3 over 2 on the bottom and 1/2 on the top. Okay, if I have square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, this first one, I'd have square root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. What does that end up being? Square root of 3, because the 2's cancel. So you just get square root of 3. That's not what we want. We want square root of 3 over 3. This is the one that we did a little bit ago. 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2. Oops. That I did right here. See how I started with 1/2 on top and got square root of 3 over 2, and had square root of 3 over 2 on the bottom, and I got square root of 3 over 3. Okay. So this means that we want 1/2 divided by square root of 3 over 2. So we want the sine value to be 1/2 and the cosine value to be square root of 3 over 2. That's how we get tangent. So sine over cosine. So we want that and that. All right, so when is sine equal to 1/2 and cosine is equal to square root of 3 over 2? So sine is 1/2. That means our y value is little. Our x value is bigger. So you go over more than you go up. So we're going to be like right here. Okay, think about degree measure. What would that be as degrees? 30 degrees. So what's it as radians? Pi over 6, right? 30 degrees related to 180 is 1/6. So it's pi over 6. So there's pi over 6. Okay, I'm telling you that is not the only answer. There are actually more than one answer on this. There's 2 answers. I want to divide sine and cosine and get a positive number out. It could both be negative, yeah. So you could also have negative 1/2 over negative square root of 3 over 2. So when are they negative and negative? What quadrant would you have negative, negative? The third quadrant, right? Over and down, so it'd be right here. So you go sine is negative 1/2, cosine is negative square root of 3 over 2. So now that's saying pi over 6 past pi. So this ends up being 7 pi over 6. So 7 pi over 6 and pi over 6 are your 2 answers. So tangent's a little tricky.